Before I introduce you to my guest today, I want to make sure that you're aware of a new resource to help you to be resilient. It's our private Facebook community called Leadership with Purpose. So you can either search in groups in Facebook and search Leadership with Purpose. And I'll also make sure that link is in the show notes as well. In our community, I share strategies, tips, and resources so you can step into less stress, greater profit, and experience the work you love. It's also a great place to connect with other like-minded leaders. So I look forward to seeing you in our community. Our sponsor for the show today is Audible. If you love listening to podcasts, I know you're going to love Audible like I do. It's a great way to be able to listen to books that you want to read this year. So if you're not already subscribed to Audible, let me get you a free book and a free 30-day trial. The book that I recommend is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. By simply visiting warrenwandling.com/audible, you can grab your free book and your free 30-day trial to Audible. Again, that's warrenwandling.com/audible. WARRENWANDLING.com/AUDIBLE. Well, welcome back to another episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, the show that's dedicated helping leaders, entrepreneurs to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have a great guest with me today to help us do just that, Nelson Tressler. Welcome to the show, Nelson.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Warren. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Nelson. So as the founder and CEO of I've Got Smarter, 6 Months to Success, speaker and now author, tell us about your business.
Yeah, so I've got quite the unique origin story that I came from, and in spite of that, I've been able to overcome those obstacles. And I got to a point in my life where I saw that there were so many people that were just a few choices away from living a drastically different life. And I've been obsessed with goals and personal development my entire life, and so I got to the point in my life where time, you get asked that question, what would you do if time and money didn't matter? And I got to that point in my life, fortunately, and what I decided to do was I wanted to help other people achieve their life's biggest goals. So I developed I Got Smarter and 6 Months to Success, and wrote my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, to draw attention to both of those companies.
Wow, that's excellent. I'd love to be able to get deeper into that story because I know that it's definitely an impactful story, right? Because you start out with murder, rape, and abuse. So can you expand upon that for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. My mom became pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And while she was pregnant with me, her father, who was the local trash collector in a small town, drove into the town square. There he spotted two police officers. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on those police officers, killing one and critically wounding the other. And eventually my grandfather was captured and brought to stand trial where he was facing the death penalty. And during his murder trial, my mom got up and testified to the jury that the reason that her father had shot and killed that police officer was that police officer had raped her, and she was now pregnant with his baby, who was me. And my mom's testimony worked. The first trial ended in a hung jury. My grandfather was tried again. The state took the death penalty off the table because of my mom's testimony. He was eventually found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, where he eventually spent the rest of his life, more than 40 years, behind bars. And that's kind of the start of my life.
Wow, Nelson, that is definitely an impactful story. And it's amazing the lessons that you've learned along the way because of that to help others in that personal development journey. Anything that really helped you to be able to navigate through life because of that beginning?
Yeah, I mean, eventually I was born to a 15-year-old mother, which is hard enough in any situation, but under these circumstances, it was very hard. And then to complicate things, my mother met a man who eventually became my stepfather, who come to find out was an alcoholic, very physically and emotionally abusive to me and my mom on a daily basis. And they quickly have four children in quick succession. And because of the lifestyle they're living, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings fall upon me as the oldest. And so it has a huge adverse effect on my life, of course. And I remember getting to the last day of fourth grade, where you go and you pick up your report card and you find out who your homeroom teacher is for fifth grade. And I remember looking down at my report card and seeing that I had straight F's, and that I would be repeating the fourth grade. And at that time, my mom would rather me stay home and help her with the kids than go to school. School never had a priority. And the next year, the school placed me into special ed to try to get the help that I needed. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. Come to find out, I had dyslexia. And that's the way my life was going until one day my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar. There was somebody else driving home drunk from that bar, and they ended up hitting and killing him. And it was at this time that my mom, who's lived a brutal life to this point, no matter how she looked at this situation, there was no way that she could figure out a way that she was going to be able to care for all five of these children on her own. She's dropped out of school in the eighth grade. She's never worked outside of the home. And it's at this time that she decides she wants to take her own life, and she attempts suicide. And fortunately, she was not successful. But whenever she did get out of the hospital, that's when my family got split up, and I went to go live with my grandmother, who's the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about food. There was never food in our house before. The lights always turned on, and there was always heat. So I started to kind of reflect upon what direction my life was going. I didn't really like where I was heading. And then one day a counselor came from the local university to talk about what it would take to get into college. And I kind of had an aha moment, like, man, if I could just graduate from college, the rest of my life after that would just be easy. And that's what I thought. And you know what happens whenever you start to tell yourself you're going to do something that's going to be difficult? That voice in the back of your head just starts screaming at you all the reasons you shouldn't even attempt it. And I remember thinking to myself, Nelson, you're in special ed. You can't read, you can't write, you can't spell. Of the family that I came from, my mom's family, she had 15 brothers and sisters. Only two had ever graduated from high school. None had even attended a college. But I had nothing to lose. So I started to go for it. Long story short, it took me 12 years. It took me four different universities. It took me 4 years in the United States Air Force. But I finally became that first person in my family to graduate from college.
Wow, congratulations, Nelson. That inspiration is probably an unbelievable story to be able to impact others, to be able to overcome their obstacles, and at least sharing that path because of your background.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do. And the thing that happened is whenever I was able to achieve that goal of graduating from college, that's when I became obsessed with goals and personal development. I thought to myself, if somebody like me who came from where I came from, if I could use a goal to actually achieve something that was very difficult for me, what else could I do in my life if I learned about goals and learned about developing myself? And that's when I became obsessed with goals and personal development. And then I've used that over my entire adult life. I've used it. I got into commercial real estate right out of college. I became the top salesman worldwide multiple times for a top five commercial real estate firm. I've started more than 10 businesses, including one of the largest privately held pet resort chains in the country. I've been married to my wife for 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. And of course, I was able to write the Unlucky Sperm Club, even though I have dyslexia. So I've used those goals. I truly believe that if you have enough time, enough focus, and enough energy, you can accomplish any goal in your life. And that's what I want to do with I Got Smarter in 6 Months to Success, is give people those tools, the knowledge, and especially the support to achieve their life's biggest goals.
Yeah, that is great testimony in sense of that goals do work, the process and strategies that are available to our listeners, if they're facing an obstacle, that they too can overcome that obstacle with enough determination and grit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes grit. And that's one of the things that I did in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, is I really pulled back the curtain. I think a lot of people look at people who have had some sort of success and they either think that it was easy or they had no hurdles or that it was an overnight success. And I pulled back the curtain and really showed all the struggles that I had financially with businesses, of course, the circumstances of my birth, also my marriage. We were probably one or two arguments away from getting divorced, but I really just showed people that it's definitely not easy, but if you have that goal and you don't quit, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to, as long as you're willing to stick it out.
Well, what do you think is the greatest obstacle that your clients encounter?
I don't think it's knowledge. I think so many people want to go out there and they want to get new knowledge. They want to buy the new program. They want to research things online. We don't have a knowledge problem. We have an execution problem. We just don't do what we know we need to do. And that's what 6 Months to Success and I Got Smarter do, is they give you that help and that support to actually do what you know you need to do and at least, get started. You might not have all the answers, but you absolutely know where you can get started. And success is a lot like walking through fog. The fog, you can barely see your hand in front of your face, but as you take a step, the landscape opens up a little bit more, and you take another step and it opens up a little bit more. I think that's a lot of times how goals are, and all we have to do is be willing to take those steps, even if we don't know what's beyond that fog. We just need to continue to put one foot in front of the other when it comes to our success, and keep going, and eventually the answers will come to us. And if not, if we do hit a hurdle that we need additional knowledge, well then, geez, we can Google something and we'll have 10 billion results in less than a second.
Yeah, I love that metaphor of the fog. That is very clear, if you will, in reference to that you need to start walking and the answers will come to you. So what was a key strategy that contributed to your success while you're building your business?
Yeah, I think it was the willingness to get started. I've never been one to wait until I had all the answers. I mean, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I think my superpower is I'm not afraid to get going, and then I won't quit. I mean, once I determine that I want to achieve this goal, and I know the price that I need to pay to achieve it, and I know it's absolutely something that I want to do, I'm going to continue on until I achieve that goal. And there's been so many situations with all of us where we just want to throw our hands up and quit. And as I'm sitting here, I was able to exit my businesses. And I think back on all the times that I felt like, you know what, forget it. I'm just done. I don't want to do this. But now I'm reaping the benefits because I was willing to really stick with it and see it through, and actually got to enjoy some of the benefits of all that hard work.
So I know that you're really known for saying, never be ashamed of a scar. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think there's so many people that are ashamed of where they've come from or their past or their past mistakes. But I think those are what build us. And for the longest time, I was ashamed of my origin story. It weakened me, and I didn't want anybody to know about it. The only person that did know about it outside of my small town when I moved away was my wife, and I felt obligated, like I have to let her know this is kind of what happened to me. But I never told my kids. I definitely never told my friends or my colleagues. But I also believe that things only have the meaning that you're willing to give them. And for the longest time, I gave that a negative meaning. But then when I was, able to sell some of these businesses and thinking about what I wanted to do, I thought about the life that I had lived, and specifically where I came from. And I'm like, you know what? I lived this life and I've had this success so that I can help other people realize that they can do it. And if you can assign meaning to everything that happens to you in your life, why on earth are people assigning negative things? I know you have to get creative and you have to look at it from a lot of different angles, some situations, but I truly believe you can find something good in everything that happens to you. And as far as the scars, never be ashamed of a scar.
Mm-hmm.
All that proves is that you were stronger than what tried to kill you. And that's what I started to take away from the trials that I had in my life, the mistakes that I made, the circumstances of my birth. I'm not ashamed of those things because they helped make me stronger and turned me into the person that I am today.
Well, I love that in reference to helping individuals and our listeners, because that's a great value and a skill set that our listeners can really pick up on, is that they have a choice, right? A choice of how they rewrite that story or how they change their self-talk. Is there a strategy that you use specifically to help you rewrite that story or your self-talk to get the results that you have achieved in the course of your career?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I truly believe is you have to be your own biggest hero. And I know that kind of comes off as not popular, but no matter how much support you're getting from the sidelines, from your family and your friends and your coworkers, all the support in the world will not overcome you being negative on yourself. And one of the strategies that we use in the I Got Smarter program is that we have an alter ego. And we all have this perfect version of ourselves that always makes the right decisions. And we really dig into that in our self-assessment in the program to the point where we name our alter ego. My alter ego's name is Fred, and Fred is the perfect husband. He's the perfect father. He'd never dream of skipping a workout. So what we do is we have this strategy of when there's a tough choice to be made, we ask that alter ego. And, be careful because my family knows about Fred now and they know Fred's perfect. And if I come home and maybe I'm a little ornery and I get on the kids about doing something they were supposed to do, their comeback to me now is, hey, Dad, can Fred come out and play? And, that's a pretty good indication that, okay, I gotta downshift a little bit and start asking Fred's advice on how to handle this situation.
Yeah, I love that strategy. You've mentioned it so far on our show in reference to your passion, really about helping others to set and achieve personal goals, and that ego strategy you just shared. Is there something else that you love helping, a strategy that you can share with our listeners, helping them to be able to achieve a personal development goal that they might have set?
Yeah, I mean, we have 15 philosophies that we follow at I Got Smarter. And I think one of the most important things is that we take 100% responsibility for our success. And in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, the subtitle is You're Not a Victim of Your Circumstances, but a Product of Your Choices. And when you take 100% responsibility for your success, that means it's nobody else's fault. If you're not successful, it's nothing else's fault. You have 100% control. And you can't control everything that happens to you. You can't control what's going on in the world, maybe, or you can't control how people treat you, but you absolutely can control how you respond to it. And that's such a powerful tool, because once you realize that you're in control, then my decisions mean something. The choices that I make are going to make a difference. And I think there's so many people out there that feel like they're victims of whatever, and they feel like their choices aren't making a difference or don't matter. And then when you feel like that, then you're very less deliberate in what you choose to do. And that is a disaster for success.
Yeah, I love that strategy, Nelson, of the 100% responsible for whatever you do, because that takes ownership, right? That starts to develop that ownership of the task. If you're working out, if you're going to follow through on the goals, the activity that you committed yourself to, that you can't blame anybody else. Do you find when you start teaching that strategy that you have some pushback with clients that kind of justify why they're not 100% and some of the negative comes out?
Yeah, I think people have really had the mindset, the victim mindset, even though they might not even call it that. They like to assign blame on things. Whether their marriage isn't as great as it could be, they want to assign some blame to their spouses, and their kids aren't turning out the way they want them to. They're going to sign something there, or the economy. So yeah, absolutely. The victim mindset is, I think, entrenched in a lot of people, but I think once you realize that you you can't control that, but you can control how you respond, that's when they start to really make a headway in their success, because then they start to really make those deliberate choices that are going to get them there. And more
Hmm.
importantly, success is predictable. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not left to happenstance. There's a lot of people out there that just think I'm going to happen upon success. I'm just, go about my bit. The chances of that are zero. I mean, success is predictable, and the way that you get there are by the choices that you do. The reason that I'm sitting here with you is of the choices that I made 20, 10, 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And another thing that I strongly believe is we are exactly where we choose to be. We choose to be in our situation. If we don't want to be there anymore, then we can start making different choices that will lead us somewhere else, and hopefully where we want to go. And that's what these programs do, is they not only help you make those choices, they make it crystal clear what you
Hmm.
want, and then help you make those choices, but then they help you be consistent, because I think there's so many people out there that they want to be consistent for a week, and then
All
something
right.
pops up, and then all of a sudden they lose momentum, and then they want to wait for some arbitrary date like the first of the month, or heaven forbid the first of the year, and then they've lost all that momentum, and more importantly, they lost our most precious resource, which is all that time that they've wasted not striving to achieve their goals.
Yeah, very well said. So I'm really curious, as the author of The Unlucky Sperm Club, what really inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard my very unique origin story,
Uh-huh, right.
and I just wanted people to realize that life is hard, but if I could have some sense of success in my life after coming from those circumstances, then I wanted to inspire and motivate other people, because if one of us can do it, all of us can do it. And I wanted to use that. I mean, like I said, it weakened me for so many years. I mean, for 45 years, it weakened me, and I wanted it to be a positive. I didn't want to be ashamed of it anymore. I wanted to say, you know what, this was a hard life, and because of it, it's turned me into this person, and this husband, and this father, and this you know leader, uh, and I wanted to put that down in a book, so other people could be inspired and motivated, because you never know, you might just be that one person that can reach somebody else. Maybe no one else's story will reach them and have them actually start to move forward with their goals, and I'm hoping that my book does that for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very inspirational, Nelson, in reference to what you've overcome and then continue to achieve. And even though, as you mentioned before, it's not easy in that path, and there's times that you wanted to quit, but you developed perseverance and grit and determination to be able to push forward. So I hope our listeners, if there's something that's holding them back, or they're not taking that risk to launch that business or write that book or start that podcast, if you will, to be encouraged to take the risk and to keep moving forward towards their dream.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the advice I would give right now as well, is start where you're at. I mean, we all, that's the only place we can ever start, is where we're
Mm-hmm.
at, and start now. I mean, hopefully they've been inspired. Hopefully they've been motivated by this podcast. The problem is everybody wants to wait until all the traffic lights are green.
Mm,
They're going to sit there
that's
and they're
very
going to
true.
wait till everything lines up before they want to start. I got news for you. It never happens. So start where you're at, and start right now on those dreams, and then be determined. Don't quit. You might get knocked off a couple times, but get back up and continue. And I'm living proof. I'm here 25 years, living a life that I couldn't have even imagined as I was growing up. And so many of these things that we just talked about are because of that. If I would have quit, 20 years
Mhm.
ago, you wouldn't even care about my story, because I quit. And there's so many people out there like that. So you just have to keep the course.
So I believe that success leaves clues, and one of those clues are the books and authors that successful people read and follow. So are there any authors or books that have influenced you?
I love books. I have dyslexia, so I
Uh-huh.
listen to most of my books, and that's another strategy. Quit listening to music in your car.
Yeah.
Throw on a podcast or get some Audible books. That's made a huge difference in my life. You know what? I love Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect. It just shows that little steps can make a huge difference. I love Brian Moran's The 12-Week Year, just showing you how much you can get done. I love all the classics. Think and Grow Rich, um, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I love The Giant Within by Tony Robbins. I love. I mean, and Stephen Covey's The Seven Habits. But yeah, I'm a junkie, so I've listened to them all and love them all. And I do have my new favorite book is The Unlucky Sperm Club. I love what that turned out to be, and so yeah, books make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your list. And I love your secret, right? Audible is a great way to be able to read the books that you want to get through in a year. If you're driving or working out, to be able to listen to Audible, you'll be amazed of how many books that you can listen to within a year if you're intentional.
Absolutely.
So, what does the future hold for you other than launching your book with the Unlucky Sperm Club? Anything else that you're working on?
Yeah, I'm really focused. I've worked in so many different things, throughout my career. I was in commercial real estate for 20 years and building businesses, and I always felt like I was never putting in 100% focused. And so I've been able to exit those businesses. I've been able to retire from commercial real estate, and now I am focused on 6 months to success. And I got smarter and really trying to get the word out on those programs because I know they're life changing. I mean, I've used the strategies and the techniques and the philosophies to come from where I came from to
Mhm.
where I am today, and I'm using them to go where I want to go, tomorrow and next year and the next decade. So I'm just trying to get the word out there and have as many people use this program to change their lives, just like I was able to do.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, I know that if our listeners wanted to reach out, which I know they will want to, Nelson, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Yeah, you can go to nelsontressler.com. I mean, my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, you can find that there. That's also available everywhere books are sold, including Amazon. And like we talked about, it's on Audible. And then also on nelsontressler.com is the I Got Smarter app and program and the 6 Month to Success app and program. And both of those programs are found on the App Store at I Got Smarter and 6 Months to Success. And they're both at those websites as well.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nelson, for being on the show and sharing your strategies and tips, helping our listeners to really overcome their obstacles to be able to achieve success.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Warren. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, this is your host, Warren Wandling, saying until next time, be resilient.